Do, 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 do. All right. Is this shit still up? All right, good. This is still working. Hello? Hello? Okay, camera. Are we good? Hello? Are we on? Hey, SJS Smiley. Okay, it's that time of the day again. Mic check, audio check. How do we look? How do we sound? How do we look? How do we sound? Anyone? Check, check. 1, 2, check, check. Check, check. 1, 2, check, check. Okay, sounds good. Camera positioning good. We good. We good to go. We good to go. All right. All right. 4:30. Hey, Leppy. Hey. Alright, we're good. We are all good. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Yes. It's another Thursday. Today's March 10th. Introduction to Security at Tufts. Ming Chow, yada, yada, yada. Hey, Kim. How are ya? Hi, guys. Kim. Yeah, I mean, although we're supposed to be anonymous on Twitter, I mean, not Twitter, Twitch, people do use their real names somehow, first name or last name, yes. So we can deduce from this so we can deduce like who the student is. I mean, people like Steez, like I still don't know, but that's okay. Yeah, I mean that's one of the nice things about, one of the nice things about, correct me if I'm wrong. Hey Liam, how are ya? Hey Liam, one of the nice things about education on Twitch. Hey JRN, hey. One of the things I really like about teaching on Twitch, you folks can. Oh, I finally figured out who SJS Miley is. I finally figured out who it is. I finally figured it out. God, it took me forever. But how many of you actually feel like when you're in a classroom, like when you're in a classroom, you just feel super intimidated because, like, holy shit, there's like a couple hundred people. I mean, it could be worse. It could be a couple hundred people. I mean, how many of you actually feel that way? I mean, how many of you actually feel that way when you're in a physical classroom and you look around? It's like, uh, what? It's like it kind of sucks here. Like, how many of you actually feel that way? Yeah, one of the nice things about offering a class on Twitch is really no one knows if you're a cat or a dog, and the number of viewers at one time can like be all over the place. Yeah, I mean it's starting to get to me, and the worst thing is, SJS Smiley. I think the problem is going to get a lot worse. I think the problem is going to get a lot worse soon. I mean, it seems like every year computer science courses are like filled to the wazoo. There's more and more people who want to do computer science. Now, I think we have a problem with a lot of people doing computer science. Not only, I'll just go on record by saying I totally understand why. Like, if people are doing computer science because of money reason, monetary or financial gain, I totally understand that. I totally, totally, totally understand that. And it took me a long time to realize. It's like, you know what? The cost of education is just way too damn high. Um, and like, what's one of the only few fields that you can actually not only learn something, but you actually can make some sort of a living out of it. And now we're seeing a lot of people doing computer science just because their friends are doing it as well. So I think the problem is only going to get worse in terms of enrollment. And, enrollment is going to get what? I mean, for fall registration is in a couple of weeks. Isn't that good? I mean, it's not a good problem. That's why I enjoy teaching on Twitch because no one knows if you really who you are, and the number of viewers fluctuate, and also we have like professionals and other people actually tuning in. Well, it'll get better, of course, if I actually decide to advertise on Twitter, but I'm just trying not to go on there. So I digress. Anyway, so today I'm going to make today kind of short. Um, yeah, teaching and avoiding a chat window. I don't feel that way. You know what? I don't. I don't feel that way. I actually don't feel that way. Surprisingly, I hear a lot of like horror stories about people streaming and teaching class to avoid. I mean, not stream like not teaching class, but streaming on Twitch. I mean, people play like to an audience of like 0 or 1, and that can be said. But I never feel that way. I never ever feel that way. Whether it's 12 people, whether it's 40 people, whether it's 50 people at one, I never feel that way. I honestly don't. I definitely don't feel that way teaching on Twitch. I really don't. I really, surprisingly, I've heard horror stories before, but no, I enjoy it kind of a lot more too, doing this. So today, so far we've done what web security and vulnerabilities, and so we've done a few labs already in this class. On web security, I mean, there's one on cross-site scripting. There's one on Sql injection. Soon you're going to have a capture the flag game. But the thing is so far you're finding vulnerabilities. You're finding vulnerabilities manually, by hand. I mean, you're typing in Sql injection payload. At least you know what that is and how a Sql injection payload looks like. So, right now, it can be a lot of work. It can be a pain to actually find vulnerabilities by hand. And honestly, and there's also a lot of times where attackers, they're really smart and they come up with exotic cross-site scripting or exotic Sql injection payload that you may have never ever dreamed of. So, is there a way you can automate the process? Very related to this question is there a way that you can scan for vulnerabilities on a system? That's the question. The question is, are there tools and are there ways to actually scan a system or test the system if it has vulnerabilities or not? Is there a way that we can do this automatically so we don't have to type in a whole bunch of things? Wouldn't that be nice to actually rely on tools that can find vulnerabilities for us? I'll give you a real example. I get this question in email all the time. Is there a way that I can scan my phone for vulnerability? If there's a way that I can scan or test if my smart light bulb or my smart appliance has known vulnerabilities, is there a way to actually do that quickly? Kind of. Yeah, Lab 8 is to write a fuzzer. A fuzzer is just a way. Here's the thing. Okay, so Ray Dang actually brings up a good point. In Lab 8, you're writing what is called a fuzzer. The whole premise of a fuzzer is simple. Throw all kind of just throw all kind of random junk at a program and see if it crashes or not. If it crashes or behave improperly, we got problems. So that is one idea. Yeah, I mean, a fuzzer is a way to test to identify vulnerabilities. But the problem is, as you've seen in previous week, there are just way too many types of vulnerabilities. It's like cross-site scripting, Sql injection, weak passwords, path traversal. The list goes on and 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 on. But is there a way that you can find all vulnerabilities or all the major vulnerabilities? And that's the key one. And the answer is yes. And today I wanted to talk about tools that you can use to scan for vulnerabilities. Yeah, we're going to do vulnerability scanning today. So vulnerability scanning, the idea is this. You have a tool, you load it up, you type in a target, you hit an enter key, you hit a button or a few things or do a few configuration, and then it will just automatically scan that system for vulnerability. Now, a system in this case could be anything. I mean, a system is, I'm using it very broadly, but you can think of system as like a web application, a website, a mobile app, a game, an appliance, an infrastructure. The system could mean any one of those things. Today, we're going to keep it in the context of a website or a web application. A web application where there's like many different features that uses a database in the back end for like manipulation and all that stuff. Okay? And what I am going to do today is we're going to use a deliberately vulnerable web application. Um, so far, we've been using the damn vulnerable web application as I've shown here. I mean, the damn vulnerable web application is still up, so you can use this. So this is an example of a vulnerable web application. There's so many different vulnerable web applications out there for free that you can use and you can download and use. I also want to introduce you to another deliberately vulnerable web application where you can do all your dirty, sinful business and testing and hone your skill, and that's called Mutilidae. Mutill, Mutilidae. Did I spell it right? Yes, I did. Mutilliddae. Mutilidae. This is an old, and it's still actively maintained, deliberately vulnerable web application. And Mutilidae is also free and open source on GitHub. So if you go to GitHub, and I have to go search for Mutilidae, here it is. It's actually it's I think it's still maintained by Oauth. The people who actually the group who actually come up with the Oauth top 10. Here's the source code for Mutilidae. So this is a deliberately vulnerable web application, Mutilidae, providing a target for web security training. Mutilidae requires a web server, a database, MySQL-based database idea. You know, I think you can use Postgres as well too, and you can install on both in either Linux or Windows using LAMP, WAMP, or XAMPP. Source code, like it's like free and open source, and it can be used as a target or for training purposes. But we're going to use, I have an instance of Mutilidae publicly available here on this website. And what we're going to use this for is we're going to use all kinds of different tools and scan it for vulnerabilities. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to introduce you to probably about at least 5 different tools that you can use to scan a website or web application such as Mutilidae or the damn vulnerable web application for vulnerabilities. Yeah. So what I'm going to do here in Mutilidae, I'm going to reset the database. And okay, you can feel free to hit around with it, but this is what we're going to use as our target today. This is the website we're going to use as a target, and we're going to use this to scan for vulnerabilities. So, okay, so what are the different types of vulnerability scanners out there? The most famous one is Nessus by Tenable. Tenable.com. So Tenable is a very renowned cybersecurity company. Their most famous product is called Nessus. What Nessus is a vulnerability scanner. Nessus has been around for a very, very long time. So, here it is. Nothing in your network stays for very long. Yada yada. Get a full assessment of your environment. There is a professional version. There's a multi-year license. People swear by this. There is also Nessus Pro, but there is also, I'm trying to find it. There should be a free version of Nessus for cyber. Yeah, here it is. Cybersecurity students. No. Tenable for education. There we go. This is what you want. Tenable for education. So, Tenable will understand the importance of educating the next generation of cybersecurity professionals like you. In a modern, yada yada, in a modern world, in a world where the modern attack surface is constantly evolving, vulnerability assessment is more critical than ever. Our goal is to provide a qualified information security training organization, yada yada, plug-in that knows what. So, there is I think, let's see what happened when we get started. Here it is. Here is the form to use to get Nessus as a Nessus Essentials, which is called Nessus, which is basically Nessus for free, but it's only like limited to 16 IP addresses that you can use as a target. This is free. It's no longer open source. Tenable used to be open source for years. And then Nessus was open source for years. Then it went closed source, and the open source version, hey Elson, became the open source version of Nessus became something called OpenVAS. OpenVAS is the Open Vulnerability Assessment Scanner. This is free and open source. It's a fork of what used to be the open source version of Nessus. Okay, so if you actually want to, if you want just free and open source tools, use OpenVAS. If you don't care and you want something more professional grade, Tenable for education is definitely the way to go. The industry uses Nessus and Tenable quite a bit. You can install OpenVAS on Kali Linux, but Nessus, you have to install it on your own. It's not actually part of part of Kali. You have to install that on your own. Download it from Tenable for education. So again, what Nessus is it scans a system for vulnerabilities. And I have an instance of Nessus on my Mac. So what it is, it's an engine. So if I go to my system settings, and here it is, under my system preferences, I have Nessus. Enter my password. Okay. So Nessus, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start Nessus. The Nessus vulnerability scanner is not, well, now it's running. You can scan your systems for vulnerabilities. I don't usually run this on startup. So, okay, now Nessus is running on my computer, on my machine, but how do you use it? How do you run it? And once you turn on Nessus for your system, you go to https://localhost or 127.0.0.1 localhost :8834. That is https://localhost:8834. Once you start Nessus on your system, you fire up a web browser, you go to https://localhost:8834. And you're going to get a message like warning potential security risk ahead, whatever, just accept the risk and continue. And here you go. And so this is the interface for Nessus Essential. I'm going to enter my username. Yeah, so the front end, the web server runs on port 8834. So that's a magic number. For Nessus, it is port 8834. Yep. So I entered my username and password. And I'm going to hit enter, and here we go. So this is the Nessus interface. This is how it looks like. Okay. Now the first time that you ever run Nessus, when you install Nessus and then you fire up the website localhost https://localhost:8834, 8834, you're going to be presented with a the message saying, okay, we need to download all the Nessus plugins. That can take a long time. That's at least 3-4 gigabytes of disk space. Then, when you enter in your username and password for the very first time upon installing Nessus, you'll be asked to do what is called a basic network scan. Basic network scan, what it's going to do is just going to do an inventory of all the devices on your network. In my case, at home. So what it will do, it will just find every single device on my network, like Xbox, Raspberry Pi, Nintendo Switch, all those things. So I installed Nessus on January 4th, a couple months ago, and I found what it did. It found all my hosts, all the IP addresses that were being in use on my network, and for each and every device, the different vulnerabilities. So it took about an hour to do an inventory of everything on my home network and to find all the vulnerabilities and to detect all the potential vulnerabilities. And you go to the vulnerabilities tab, you can actually see all the vulnerabilities rated by critical, low, yeah. Again, Nessus Essentials is Nessus free. If you're doing this professionally, there is a annual license. Yeah. There is also a tab for remediations, like what you can do. Oh shit! I was running it can even find outdated software running on your client as well too. At that time, I was running an older version of Wireshark, and Wireshark gets broken. It has vulnerabilities all the time. Okay, so you always, for things for software like Wireshark, you always want to upgrade to the latest version. Top threats, history. Last time I ran this was January 4th. To do the complete network scan on my home network using Nessus Essential, it was an hour. It was about an hour long. Okay. This is my router, 192.168.1.1. I don't know which one of these is the CX boxes. I don't know which one it is. But I do know I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. There are 9 devices on my network. That makes sense. I do have an inventory of my network. Okay? So, this is what happens. My basic network scan is done upon the first time you ever run Nessus Essential after you install it. Yeah. So now, if I want to go back home to my home screen, let's say I want to, can you do a brand new scan? Can you do a scan of anything, of any target? And the answer is yes. Here's how you actually create a brand new scan, a vulnerability scan, automated vulnerability scan of a target. You go in the upper right corner here, and you click on New Scan. Alright, now this gets interesting because there's quite a lot of options here. And the most really basic option is host discovery. What this is a simple scan to discover live hosts and open ports. That's it. Basically, it's glorified. Basically, it's Nmap, but looks for everything on your network. The host discovery is basically Nmap. Now, let's say that you want to look for vulnerabilities. So, there are a lot of options here. By default, the default option is the basic network scan. Okay, a basic network scan, what it does, this is a full system scan suitable for any host. This option, let's choose this. Let me choose this option, a basic network scan. Okay, and I'm going to call this router. Okay, I'm going to call this the router. You can give a description anytime. Whatever. My scan, the target, 192.168.1.1. That's my router. You can also have the option of like setting credentials for SSH, for Windows if you want, other plugins, yada yada yada. At the most rudimentary level, for a new basic network scan, all you need to do is just type in the IP address of the target that you want. Now, the caveat for Nessus Essential is you can only use up to 16 IP addresses total on your total. So in this case, the 192.168.1.1 will count as one of the 16 max that you can use. Hit save. And so here it is. I have an on-demand scan. I'm just going to hit, and then to launch the scan, all you just need to do is just hit launch. But let's go for let's take a look at all the other scan options that we have. You can do an advanced scan. You can do a scan for malware on Windows and Unix system. You can do a scan for mobile devices. This does require the commercial version of Nessus. Web application test. Scan for published and unknown web vulnerabilities using Nessus Scanner. You can also look for vulnerabilities such as credentials, Intel AMT security bypass, Spectre and Meltdown, WannaCry ransomware, Zero Log and remote scan, yada Log4 shell. Where's the Log4 shell? Right there, Log4Shell, detection of Apache Log4j CVE 2021 44228. Another Log4Shell, another Log4Shell, Active Directory Starter Scanner, Proxy Print Nightmare. List goes on. Now, in industry, people really, really use Nessus for compliance purposes. So that's a dirty secret of the security industry, is that so much work is done for compliance. Okay? Check for things like internal payment card industry stuff. I mean, there's a reason why Nessus is so heavily used in industry because of compliance reason. And this, of course, requires the commercial version of Nessus. So, okay, what about a web application? Can I scan a web application? The answer is yeah. So, let's say I remember the target Mutilidae that I had here at 34.125.191.228/Mutilidae. So, if you want to actually scan a web application such as Mutilidae for vulnerabilities, you would go to Web Application Test, fill out the information, fill out the IP address, in this case it's 34.125.191.228. Then you would go to you had to finagle with this. It took me a bit to figure this to find this. Let's say if you want to do here it is. You want to change the default options, but you want to change the starting point of the scan. You would just do a custom option, and then you can actually do start crawling from. Well, we don't want root. We want Mutilidae. So you can finagle with the setting. But the good news is I did this for you. It could take like an hour to do. Here we go. So I'm going to go back to my home scan. So I did this early this morning. Like we're talking about in the midnight. So I have the scan result for Mutilidae. So what are the vulnerabilities that Nessus found for Mutilidae? You can see my router scan is still running on Nessus. Go to Mutilidae, and here we go. Took around 37 minutes it took. Started on March 9, 11:56 p.m., ended at 12:33 a.m. this morning. 37 minutes. Oh yeah, I mean, ServiceNow and Medicat, yeah, I would hope they would be using this to test this stuff all the time. So you bring up a very interesting question about the value and purpose of vulnerability scanners. So here we are. It took 37 minutes, and you can see the breakdown. 2 critical vulnerabilities, 8 high vulnerabilities, 20 medium vulnerabilities, 3 low information based, kind of low kind of stuff. 72. All right, let's check the vulnerabilities. What are they? Here we go. Holy shit! I didn't know this. On the web server that I'm using, there is a apparently there is a critical vulnerability that has to do with byte memory overwrite RCE. You can drill down further. Here's a description of the vulnerability. Here's the solution. Interesting. Now, here's the interesting thing. Vulnerability scanners may or may not prove that a vulnerability actually exists. All it does is look for heuristics like software version numbers and find a vulnerability. Interesting. There's also a high vulnerability with Nginx. There's a couple of Nginx. This Nginx is the web server software that's being used. Go back. There is remote file inclusion. Oh, there's Sql injection here. There's a couple of Sql injection issues here with Utilidae, this app that we have here. Really? There you go. Description of Sql injection, solution, resources. Interesting, it does the output. The output is, I guess, it does quote unquote prove that Nessus found Sql injection. Here's your quote unquote proof. Interesting. It has information about remediate. I don't know. Utilidae, vulnerability. They also found Sql injection path traversal. Git repository served by web server. Interesting. There's a Git server, Git repository here. Generic cross-site scripting, I found that. Yeah, a whole bunch of other issues here. So you can see, Nessus found a lot. Nessus found a lot of vulnerabilities on Utilidae that is hosted here. And here's the breakdown, here's the report. Remediations, a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. I mean, Nessus can take a while to install because you need at least 3-4 gigabytes of what is called plugins. I mean, that's how Nessus works, as well run on plugins. Rules. All right, if you find this is a vulnerability, you can also write your own rules as well. All right, the Nessus scan is still running for the router. Oh shit, it still running. Found 15 vulnerabilities so far. 2 of them are high, including one denial of service. Now, that's not good. That's not good. We'll keep this thing running. Goes without saying because stuff like Nessus is basically rule-based. You have to download the rules every so often. Okay, in order to get accurate results. So I don't need this anymore. I'm going to actually log out. All right. Sounds good. So Nessus is a very famous, probably one of the most famous and full feature-packed vulnerability scanners in the market. Yeah. Rapid7, based in Massachusetts, have something called Nexpose. Same idea. Nexpose is a vulnerability scanner and software by Rapid7. And they have things, again, they're kind of all the same stuff as your on-premise vulnerability scanner. Collect all the information, prioritize, and remediate. Okay? I've never really used Nexpose before. So the idea of how Nexpose works is collect, prioritize, and remediate. You're going to find vulnerabilities. There are going to be vulnerabilities reported all the time. But you really want to be fixing the most important one, not the low-hanging fruit stuff. That's how Nexpose looks like. Assets like servers, web apps, all that stuff. And, really, really important, really handy for large enterprises. Yeah. Nexpose is another one. I think there's a version that you can try. All right. So, okay. So I'm going to introduce you to a couple of other vulnerability scanners. But here I said we're going to focus today on web applications and websites. One of my absolute favorite tools for scanning websites and web application for vulnerabilities is Nikto. Yeah, Nikto. Nikto. Nikto is part of Kali Linux. Nikto. You may have heard of Nikto before, but you don't actually really know what it was or what it is. Yeah, what Nikto is. Nikto is a vulnerability scanner for websites and web application. Oh, the loud, annoying one. Oh, that is correct, Leppy. Yes. Loud and annoying one, it is, Leppy. Nikto is what Nikto is a pluggable web server and CGI scanner written in Perl. Nikto was written in the 2000s. It was one of the very first tools that I used and loved because it's simple. It's simple to use and it does the job to a degree. And what it does is it does perform fast security and informational checks. It's also Nikto is also very small. Okay, you have outputs in plain text or HTML, yada yada yada. All right, we did a Nikto scan alarm for a lab. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And so the reason why I gave you that one were twofold. Number one, Nikto is notoriously nosy and noisy. Nikto actually leaves behind a lot of signatures. If you notice, the way that you check for a Nikto scan is look for the word Nikto, capital N, lowercase I, lowercase t, lowercase k, lowercase o in the payload. That's it. Like Nikto leaves behind a signature everywhere. In other words, noisy. Yeah. It's basically telling the world that I got a guy, I'm hitting you, I'm hitting, it's noisy. But the value of Nikto, it is really nice and lightweight to use. Nikto, if you go to sectools.org, Nikto is an open source web app server scanner which performs comprehensive data. Okay, we've seen this. Nikto is free and open source. And here it is. Testing purposes. That's a good question. It's a really good question, CS. Like, why be noisy? It's testing purposes. Testing. Okay. Here are the ops. Here's how you. Here's the configuration ops. Chris Sullo. Give a shout out to Chris Sullo for. Oh, it's still updated. Last update was 8 days ago. And so I am now going to actually show you how to run Nikto. Let me get that damn site again up running. Where the hell is it? Ah, here it is. Utility. Alright, I got the website. So I'm going to open up my terminal. I'm going to open up a brand new tab. I'm going to open a basic terminal. There you go. There you go. So I have an instance of Nikto here. If you own the environment, not a problem. Yeah. It's like mic check. Yeah, exactly. It really is. But it's also announcing everyone that you got a weapon on you. So that's never a good thing. So if I hit cd Nikto and you take a look, I have a whole bunch of files. A Docker file, readme.md. The file to go to program, cd program. So pwd is Nikto/program. And the starter code, the code is nikto.pl. Nikto was written in Perl. Perl nikto.pl. Oops, here it is. Oh, no, this is how it happened when you run Nikto. No host provided. You have to use the host option. There's a whole many options here. Format to save your report, host, minus port, root. Okay, let's do this again. So this time I'm going to do, I think is Perl, here we go, Perl nicto minus host equals minus root equals slash Utilidae. So if I expand this, my head I know will be in the way. So it's going to look like that as a full command. So I'm going to run nicto.pl, nicto on host is 34.125.191.228, and the root is going to be slash Utilidae, here, this website. I'm going to reset the database, view the logs, like I got logs, I can even see IP addresses and all that stuff. Alright, whatever. So I'm going to hit enter now to run nicto scan against the site. Come on, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. It should just, this thing should just fly. Let me actually run this on Kali Linux and let's see what happens. Oh shit, here we go. Oh shit, here we go. OSVDB is now no longer in existence. It was supposed to be an improved version of CVEs. Let me run it on here. Let's see what the difference will be on the Kali Linux version of nicto. Nicto minus host equals, the hell's the IP address again? 34, here we go. 34.125.191.228 minus root equals Utilidae. Let's see what happens here. Let's run nicto. You don't need to do the Perl thing on Kali Linux. You just type nicto and then boom. Same result. Yep. That's my IP. Oh well. Yes, that's my 34.125.190, no, 34.125.191.228 is a server IP that I run. Ooh, here it is. Anything good? Oh shit, look at that, look at that. Utilidae also found, look at this, look at this. Oh shit, this ain't good. Oh shit. Okay, so the result of behavior is the same thing on either Kali or if you're running it from like a Mac, a Git version. Yeah, folks, this ain't good. So, oh no, this is not good. Utilidae found path traversal. Oh dear. They found a path traversal nicto found a path traversal vulnerability. Let me give a copy of that. This is not good, folks. Let me type this in. Does it really expose the /etc/? Let's give it a try. This is the result from nicto. It does. Yep, there is a path traversal vulnerability right there. Thanks, nicto. Nicto also found output from PHP info, all the configurations information on the server. This is not good. Not good, folks. Not good. Not good. Not good. What is PHP info? What does that look like? Oh, there PHP info here. Oh yeah, this ain't good. The PHP configuration page, all the, oh man, IP addresses, configuration information, plugins, database versions, everything. Yeah, this is not good. Yeah, but the path traversal vulnerability is bad. That's really bad, and we just did it. Thanks, Nicto. So Nicto actually identified a path traversal vulnerability right there. Not good. Not good. All right, so that's a great question. Should I run this way? If you're going to run vulnerability scanners, if you're at home, of course you can do that. But what happens if you're in a workplace? I wish we had professionals on this call right now, on the air today. The thing is, if you're going to be running vulnerability scanners and tools like this, the answer is, generally speaking, you always want to be running vulnerability scanners. If you're on a security team, you don't need written permission to do so. But if you're not affiliated with the information security team, if you're not, you gotta ask for permission before you do this stuff. So, SJS Smiley, should you run this? Yes, but when you always want written permission first. Because if you don't have written permission, and then people are going to say, oh, you have unauthorized access, then you get fired and stuff. That had happened many times in the past before in other places. Okay? So, before you run a vulnerability scanner on a system that is not on systems that does not belong to you, get written permission first. So this proves that Nicto works. It's a nice, quick scanner to find all sorts of vulnerabilities on websites and web servers. Really, really cool. It's nice and quick, and using it is on the command line. Okay? Now, remember last week when we talked about web proxies? Remember we talked about web proxies last week? Isn't that a server with the honeypot? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was the same IP address, CS Learning, but last night I installed Mutility, another deliberately vulnerable web application on the server. So you're not wrong. The only thing I did was I just reused I mean, hey, I don't want to be spinning up IP addresses and IP. It cost me money to do that, you know? It cost me money to spin up servers and systems, okay? And this is a path traversal because, hey, that's what Mutility has. Let's go to Burp Suite. Now, Burp Suite, we did Burp Suite last week for web proxies. But the paid version, Burp Suite Pro, has a vulnerability scanner as well. Okay? Has a vulnerability scanner as well. Now, there's also, last week I also presented Oauth Zap. Okay? Oauth Zap is also very much like Burp, but it's completely free, it's completely open source, it has a proxy, and it has a web app scanner. So why would people actually be paying for Burp than use Zap? Well, Burp been around for so long, okay? Burp had what they call audience traction for so many years, okay? And it also has, of course, you pay someone, you support them as well, okay? I have an instance of Zap running on my computer. Hold on. So I configure it in a way on my Mac where I just type in Zap and it just fires it up on my computer. And then, nice and quick. Here's Oauth Zap. And the scanner mode is, here it is, automated scanner. URL to attack. Ah, rats. What's the scam IP again? I don't have that good of a memory, folks. Oh, it updated my Firefox. Nice. Professor Frink right now. Alright, that's good. Yeah, actually, how you do an automated scan using Oauth Zap for web applications. This is only for web application only. Type in the starting URL, your additional spider, hit attack, and there you go. There you go. And to see all the vulnerabilities that it finds, go to alerts. Still working. Still working. Still working. Does a spider first. Uh-oh. You see a whole bunch of vulnerabilities and alerts here. I can't read what that is. It's like blank. It's like something got censored badly. It's okay. Alerts, alerts, alerts. Here we go. It's gonna keep on going. But yeah, Oauth Zap has an automated scanner. As you can see, some of these alerts are not as like high quality as the ones that you saw in Nessus or even in Nikto. But hey, Oauth Zap, it does have an automated scanner. But it works to a degree. The quality of the alerts, I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna hit stop. I could quit out of this. What the fuck I quit out of this? Hey, I need to quit. Yeah. Alright, there we go. Okay, so what we've covered so far, we've talked about Nessus, which is commercial product. There's OpenVAS you can try. OpenVAS I found to be a little bit more difficult to use in terms of the user interface. So we've done Nessus, Nikto, Zap, we just did, Burp. I can show you two more. Two simple ones. What happens if you want to find vulnerabilities in web apps that have Sql injection? Is there a way that you can automate Sql injection? And yeah, there is. Let me recall this article. It's actually mentioned in there. Remember this article, The History of Sql Injection? That will never go away. History and Sql Injection, the hack that will never go away. Here. There's a tool, very famous tool called SQL Map. SQL Map. SQL Map is an automated tool to look for SQL injection. SQL Map is also free and open source. SQLmap.org. SQL Map will automatically... Now, don't do this for lab number 7. Don't use SQL Map because that's cheating. Do not use SQL Map for lab number 7 because that's cheating. SQL Map is an open source penetration testing tool that automates the process of detecting and exploiting SQL injection flaws and taking over database servers. You can view the project on GitHub. Here it is. Let's get up. Do not use SQL Map for lab number 7. You can use it for the Capture the Flag game. And there it is. So I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to go to my documents. CD SQL Map. SQL Map is written in Python. Now Python... There it is. Python, so SQL Map, so how you use it, it's actually pretty usable. Very easy to use. As -u for just plug in the URL. Hey, so let's do this. Let's go to Mutility again. Let's see the Okay, let's go to the login page. So it's going to be Python 3 SQL map.py minus u, and then that IP address. Let's do that. So what it finds. Sure. Ooh. Ooh. So it's going to try to find a whole bunch of heuristics to find SQL injection. Even checks what database may be used, what database version may be used. So let me know, your SQL map is your friend. Yeah, sure, why not? Ooh. Aww. Does SQL map work? Oh yeah, but not in this case. Doesn't work with the get parameter page. Does not seem to be injectable. But there may be other options. There may be other options on the site. There's definitely SQL injection here. You just have to use the right parameter. SQL map just used the get parameter for page here. That didn't work. Apparently there's no SQL injection there. But SQL injection is your friend. Okay? Okay, also there is, let's say if you're familiar with WordPress. One of my absolute favorite test tools is WP Scan. WP Scan, a WordPress security scanner. One of my favorite tools because all it does is just find vulnerabilities in WordPress. And you know, what is it, 60%? Like, not 60, not, should be, I think it is, but at least 20% of our websites run on WordPress. So what WordPress is just a scanner to find vulnerabilities on a WordPress site. Free and open source as well, too. Yeah, 20%, 20 plus percent of websites on the internet use WordPress. Well, I can't make this shit up. I can't make this up. What percentage of website? Are you shitting me? Holy cow. What percentage of websites that use WordPress? 62% of the top 100 fastest growing companies use WordPress? WordPress is used by 65. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's a high number. 43. Hot dang. That's a lot of websites that use on the internet that use WordPress. I mean, it's simple to do. Oh yeah, so people really still use WordPress. Here we are in the year 2022. WP Scan is the WordPress security scanner. Vulnerabilities, there it is. You can even install it by way of Homebrew. How you run WP Scan it's pretty trivial. It just uses very much like how Nikto WordPress, Nikto and SQL Map. I mean, it's just you know, as use minus u minus URL. Usually have the same format. Usually the commands are pretty identical. It's all command line based. Anyway, so we've gone over Nessus, Nikto, SQL Map, WP Scan, Zap, Burp. These are examples of vulnerability scanners that you can use. But I want to end today with two important messages. two extremely important messages. The first one is this, and this is a problem in the cybersecurity industry. A vulnerability scan is not the same as a penetration test. I repeat, a vulnerability scan is not the same as a penetration test. They're two different things. Don't ever confuse the two. A vulnerability scan is just a scan for vulnerabilities. But a vulnerability scan may or may not prove, will most likely not prove, the existence of the vulnerability. The whole point of a penetration test is to actually take full exploitation, to do full advantage of an exploit, take full advantage of a vulnerability, and show that you can really exploit a vulnerability. They're two different things. Sadly, I can't tell you, there's so much fraud in cybersecurity industry sometimes that there are people who actually would run a Nessus scan, then charge a client $200,000 and say this is a penetration test report. And which is kind of bullshit, because now you show a penetration test report and it's like, okay, I see all these problems here. Well, the problem is a vulnerability scan a lot of times do not prove the existence of a vulnerability. That's the whole point of a penetration test. A penetration test, you actually have to break into the system. You actually have to take full exploitation of vulnerability and show, yep, here's a vulnerability that really exists. Okay? So it's really sad that there's a lot of professionals who get away with this problem. You actually just run a simple Nessus scan, maybe take a couple of hours, slap your own corporate label on their logo on there, and then charge like $250,000 for what is called a pen test. It's really sad. It's an El Cheapo fraudulent way to make money. Okay? They're two different things. Don't mix them up. We didn't do much of a penetration test. The only thing that is considered a penetration test would be a tool like Sql Map. Sql Map actually can do both. Penetration testing, breaking in, stealing data, all that stuff, and proving that the vulnerability, in this case Sql Injection, actually exists. Okay? But most vulnerability scanners will not actually do the exploitation for you. Don't mix it up. Now, the second important point I want to say is this. And it really relates to what SJS Smiley, what you just wrote. It's like I think I understand vulnerabilities and then my mind got blown. Okay. The important point is this. My second important point is you can use all the security vulnerability scanners. You can use as many security scanners in the world that you want to test if your system is secure. The whole point of vulnerability scanners, and they serve a very important role, which is vulnerability scanners can help you identify critical vulnerabilities. Embarrassing stuff that you gotta fix right away. That's what vulnerability scanners can do, really valuable. Vulnerability scanners can be really valuable in identifying critical, embarrassing, 5-alarm vulnerabilities on your system. If a vulnerability scanner such as Nessus, Nikto, OpenVAS, Nexpose, I don't care what it is, if they identify critical vulnerability, you better go fix it. You better go fix them. You have a problem. Full stop. That's an important usage and the important point of vulnerability scanner. But what happened if your vulnerability scanner gives you the green light? If your vulnerability scanner gives you a green light, doesn't mean I'm done, my system is secure. Nope. When a vulnerability scanner does not return any critical vulnerabilities or any high vulnerability, it doesn't mean that your system is secure. It just also means you just don't know. And this is the whole idea of my friend and mentor, Gary McGraw, the Badness-O-Meter. Gary McGraw, my friend and mentor. it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today. Badness-O-Meter. Where are you, my friend? Please tell me that this is still good. Badness-O-Meters. Badness-O-Meters are another term for vulnerability scanners. Badness-O-Meters. Vulnerability scanners. Yeah. There is a great picture. Where is it? There's a fantastic picture of Badness-O-Meter. Badness-O-Meter really is another term for vulnerability. It's like vulnerability scanners. Purveyors of web applications believe that their web apps are bulletproof if they use simple security features like authentication or SSL. Of course, we all know by now that secure software security goes well beyond software security features and deep into enemy territory, concerning itself things like software defects, yada yada yada. Where is that picture? Badness-O-Meter. Where are you? Here it is. Even if you're vulnerability scanner, I think I got a picture of it here. Vulnerabilities. Gotta go back. Here we go. Vulnerability scanning. And I want to leave it at here. There it is. If you do okay, here's a question. If you do forgot I had this on a slide. If you do a scan or a penetration test of a system and no vulnerabilities are reported, is that a good thing? And here's a picture of the Badness-O-Meter. Badness-O-Meter does not equal security meter. If your pen test or if your vulnerability scan actually return critical vulnerabilities, it means you're in deep trouble. But if your vulnerability scan or your pen test and it doesn't find any security vulnerabilities, any serious one, really is who the hell knows. Now that's why Badness-O-Meters have their value. It can show you if you're in deep trouble or not. Especially for organizations that have no security program or have little investment in security. So vulnerability scans, pen tests, yeah, they're two different things. But they're very valuable to prove vulnerabilities, so to show that, hey, you got some critical issues here that you got to go fix. You got to go fix those right away. If you fix those, doesn't mean that you're green light, fixed, solved. You're blessed, secure. No. Just means who knows. Cool. And that's all I got for today. We're not going to be here till next week. It's going to be St. Patrick's Day and spring break coming soon. See you all. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, no. Seraphim. I was like, wait a minute. Am I reading this correctly? I thought you meant, oh, God. I thought you meant spring semester, but now you mean spring the Java application. That's way too complicated. Way too complicated, man. No, spring is way too complicated. Spring is way too complicated. Also, the same can be said about Ruby on Rails and and also Django. They're so oh dear. You got to bring up this mess. Yeah, is there like a lightweight? You got to look for like Seraphim. You got to look for a lighter weight web framework. Something like Flask for Python. Something nice and simple that you can just make request response. But I would not actually. Hey, Bridget, thanks. You don't want to be. Like, Spring is way too heavyweight. It does way more. You probably have more than you can chew. Would not recommend Spring just for starters. Oof. See you all. Oh, I do not miss Spring at all.